Welcome back to Tony's Teaching Tips. Today's topic is engaging online learners. I'm Tony Sindelar, a higher education instructional designer with many years of experience partnering with faculty and subject matter experts to create and improve teaching and learning. So today we're talking about engaging online learners, and I want to share with you another set of education theory that has been helpful to me as both an instructor and an instructional designer. The model I want to share with you is Karen Swan's model of interactivity and learning. This model looks at three types of interactivity that can happen in online learning environments, and the idea that we need to support and design for all three types in order to have engaged and successful learners. The three types of interactivity Karen Swan defines are interactions with content, interactions with instructors, and interactions with classmates. None of these happen in isolation, and in fact, it's the overlap between them that's meaningful. Let's take a minute to talk about them one at a time. So, interactions with content. This is the first of the three types of interactions Swan defines with regard to students navigating the online environment, where students work through content, access information, and connect with the course material. Now, you might already see overlap with the other interactions. Instructors, of course, are creating and selecting the content that students are going to work through, and student interactions with other students are going to be based and shaped around the content that they're working through in the course. In the early days of online learning, we were very focused on content, too focused. Online tools are extremely powerful for the access to information they provide to learners, but accessing information is not the same as learning. It's what we ask students to do with that information and how they interact with it that is significant. So in thinking about students interacting with content in your online courses, I want to stress two things. First, the design of your online space and how easy you make it for students to find what they need to find really matters and influences how they perceive the online learning environment. And second, what you ask students to do with that content and connect with it and connect it to the things they care about and the topic they're trying to work through is really going to matter. Let's talk about interactions with the instructor. So interactions between student and instructor are the second major type of interactions defined by Swan. There's a lot of clear research that links student perception with regard to the amount of interactivity they have with their instructor with how they perceive their learning and the quality of the instruction they're receiving. As an instructor, you are the expert, but you also have several other jobs. You're planning instruction, you're selecting content, you figure out what the activities you are going to do with students, you try and motivate them, and then ultimately you assess their learning and assign grades. You essentially have three roles here: cognitive, affective, and managerial. And in an online course mediated through technology, these three roles can feel particularly segmented apart and exaggerated in how much time you're spending in each one. For new online instructors, it can be extremely important to remember that affective component and the need to think about your instructor presence with regard for what tools you use to communicate with students and establish your presence with them. Recorded videos and interactions via Zoom are obviously a very dynamic way to be present with your online learners. But your instructor presence is also something you want to be thinking about when you're writing assignments, when you're crafting email announcements, or when you're posting about the course in the discussion board. Everywhere that you are present is a place that you influence students and let them know that you care about them, that you care about the topic, and that you're there to help and support them. Students want to connect with you as an expert in the topic. You want to make sure that the technology helps you forge those connections and doesn't get in the way. All right, let's talk about the third and final type of interactivity, interactions with peers. Swan is talking about here student-to-student interactions. I've spoken about in other videos the idea that social interactions are important for learning. Most educational theorists believe that learning is inherently social in nature and that social interactions are critical in the construction of knowledge. Honestly, this is a place with regard to online learning where we're still figuring out a lot of things and trying to figure out what's going to be the best for different groups of learners and different topics we're trying to teach. For a long time, online learning was not very social, or what socialization was done was via limited online discussion boards. And sadly, almost everyone who's been an online learner has experienced one or more dreary discussion boards that basically just felt like busy work. Further making this challenging is that People selecting into online learning are often doing so based around ideas of convenience and flexibility. And that's often how we kind of market and stress the value of our online classes, the convenience of accessing it whenever you need to. And it can be hard for students to make meaningful connections with each other when they're basically these ships passing by in the night. But this is a challenge that we need to confront if you're teaching online or helping people design online courses. We need to have plans for how learners are going to forge connections with each other, how they're going to interact with each other, and build meaning with regard to the content. Students who are socially isolated will be demotivated and will be less successful as learners than those who are connected and feel like they are part of a community. I think we now live in an age where many people are part of online communities and recognize that these are just communities that happen to be online and that their value and can be incredibly important, whereas 10 or 15 years ago, that was something that people were more skeptical about. But we're still doing work with how we bring those into the online learning space. The advent of tools like Zoom and the ubiquity of smartphones allowing you to capture video and imagery from your day-to-day life can be powerful tools that I think we can be doing more of to bring those into the online learning environment and allow students to share who they are, what their lives are, and how that connects to the content of the course that you're teaching. So, I know this was a longer video, but I hope this model is useful for you in terms of thinking about how you're going to approach online learning. What are you doing in your courses to help students connect with content, to connect with you as the instructor, and to connect with each other as peers? You want to be thinking about that both at the course level and then maybe even starting to think about that down at the week by week or the unit level, because you want all those types of interactions happening and happening in ways that are going to be successful in order for students to be engaged and in order for students to move through your course and feel like they've had a meaningful learning experience. Bye for now.